Well, greetings everyone, it is I, the Masked Man, returned for another video so soon, yes. Ooh, I'm back. And unfortunately these glasses that I have found don't, oh actually they do kind of fit me, but perhaps not now, perhaps later. I believe they belong to someone else. Anyway, today we are going to be taking a look at tier lists, because I have been seeing a bunch of people talking about tier lists and wanting to discuss about tier lists and everything like that. So let's get into it. Let's actually go there and talk about tier lists, because at this point, the game hasn't been out that long. The game has been out for, what, less than a week still? And yeah, from that point of view, I'm trying to get an exact idea of where things are really, really good and whatnot when we haven't gotten through all the content, and it's initial content anyway. Kind of hard to really judge a ton of characters and mobile suits and supports all fairly across just so many things, including the fact that there's just going to be so much extra content. But I get it. People are rerolling. People do want to know what is best. So what do I recommend? Well, first, let's take a peek into the horrible world that is just a buttload of just tier lists and see what we can see. So starting off, I'm just going to go all the way back over here. That was from a previous video, so don't worry about it. Let's start with this one. This is just Game 8. This is a website that I use for vote, or sorry, somebody else uses for votive. Definitely not me. Definitely not. And this website is pretty good about reviewing things. It's not the best as for always, but again, we're getting a variety of opinions anyway today, so we will look at the aggregate. So taking at what they consider double S, well, the Exia, the Phoenix, the Ariel, the Freedom, and the Sazabi, with the Crossbone being in tier 2 and the rest of the units being in tier 3, and the narrative really being down at the bottom. Now again, don't freak out, because this is just one opinion, and let's take a look at reasons why. The Phoenix, excellent versatility, high range, and increased damage taken by enemies. Because of firepower, the Ariel contributes to firepower with defensive debuffs, high range on some of its abilities. I can talk about that basically. Exia has amazing versatility over terrain, easy to use, and some great range on weapons. Strike Freedom has a map with a defense debuff, which is pretty killer to a lot of opponents. Map attacks cannot be countered against, so Freedom can basically get off a pretty nasty thing, especially if enemies are together very early on. And the Sazabi, increased attack power up to 25%, long range weaponry, and is just a pretty damn good machine. And then the Crossbone, short range but very high critical, resistance to beam attacks, which is kind of important for surviving damage in later maps, and can be deployed anywhere except water. Now, really quickly before we go any further, let's talk about some of the things that are the most important for games like this: speed, mobility, and functionality. The big thing about the SD Gundam series is terrain, and terrain will always be a big determining factor whether a unit is good or not. Like the narrative Gundam, for example, it is kind of just awkward and cannot be used on every single map very easily. What that translates to is that it's really just not very good. Some of the reason that we are seeing such units being ranked high already is because they're just incredibly strong debuffs, or have really good range and movement. Not to mention just are capable on multiple types of terrain. I have to say that I do contest to the idea that it is a really bad feels bad moment when you have the unit that you really like but can't use it on a certain map. The seed maps especially are ones early on that you come across this, where they have maps over water and a lot of units lose all of their mobility and just aren't very versatile or good, making the maps more challenging than they be. But that is something that makes units particularly valuable in this game. So this is one account. Let's go through a few others, just looking at units really quickly. Now here we have Chemigame, which has the Sazabi, the Freedom, and the Exia in the top tier. And from there, a whole bunch of units in the S tier, most notably the Crossbone and the Phoenix and the Aerial. And from there, going all the way down, noting that down here is the White Gundam as well, which is kind of noteworthy because it's only available on JP, at least for now. And the narrative is in there down around B tier again. Just noticing patterns. Looking at another one, this from another gaming Japanese website, Exi and Sazabi are considered to be tier 0, with Freedom and Aerial, Crossbone all in tier 1. And from there, you can see the Phoenix is rated a little bit lower, and the narrative and the original Gundam are pretty much down in tier 4 in terms of UR characters. For here, we have CMeta, which doesn't seem to be a very well updated site, and I'm not too terribly sure, but it's kind of interesting because they mention a few other things in here. The Sazabi and Exi are considered S tier, along with the Phoenix, interestingly enough in this one. The Zeta Gundam is also in here, which is an interesting inclusion, seeing that it hasn't been mentioned on any other meta tier list, but yes, this is a SD Gundam Eternal list, just in case people are wondering. Also, the Psycho Gundam and the new Gundam Prototype Camphor, so this is probably including some of the units that you can actually build through the development phase. But I find this an interesting inclusion in our discussion because it only talks about 2 URs and nothing else at this point. So maybe, or 3 URs, but maybe not the best. Still interesting. Here, Poctic Tactics, Exia, Phoenix, and Sazabi all considered to be X, with Crossbone and the Freedom in S+, Aerial and the Zeta 3 in S, Gundam EX, Barbados 6 Formula Sing, Narrative Gundam Apex, New Gundam Strike, Unicorn, Destroy Mode all in A, and the Aquarius, Easy 8, and Psycho Mark III down in the B tier. And our last one, and this one is the most comprehensive potentially, from App Media, another JP website, Exi and Sazabi in the best tier. Freedom, the New Gundam, Aerial, Barbados, as well as a few other recurring ones, Phoenix a little bit lower, and so on and so forth. But what's interesting about this one is that it also includes some of the SSRs from Gacha that you may have been re-rolling through at this point, including the Advanced GNX, the 1.5 Gundam, and, well, just a big long list of machines that you can see in here. If you're interested in pausing the video and taking a look at them, this is the one that I will include in the link in the description for this. But what can we take away from all of these aggregate tier lists? Because I don't think that you can just look at one tier list and say right now that, oh yes, this is the definitive answer. This is the thing I should go. These tier lists are designed by people with different experiences, people with different gacha roles, and most people are not super whaling yet, although it was pretty interesting that the app is apparently #1 in terms of sales. So congratulations, Gundam fans, we're paying for probably some new stuff in the future. That's maybe also pretty cool. We'll see how this game keeps going. But anyway, the big takeaways from me for this, that if you're looking for an absolute gold tier standard start for your account, then aim for the Exia or the Sazabi. You can get those off of the base tickets, the tickets that you get at the start of a reroll. These yellow ones. If you could get the Sazabi or the Exia off of that, that's probably good enough to start. It should be noted that a lot of later maps, especially hard maps, and this is something I will touch on later, but if you go into the actual main stage maps and you go all the way and take a look at the hard maps do seem pretty daunting, since their values go up pretty high, and there are maps well and truly over 100,000 or 160,000 in terms of the points that you need. The points aren't necessarily the best way of judging it. If you have good strategy and good gameplay, you can get around those point requirements, although depending on just what happens, you may or may not be super successful. But it's still important to know that, these values while they are important, are not make or break some of this. So just basically coming back and talking about the reroll and everything, since there are so many rerolls out there, and I haven't even touched on Altima, I haven't even touched on a bunch of the English ones or any of the stuff in Reddit. What's the big takeaway? Well, Exia and Sazabi are the gold standard for a new account. You're basically re-rolling, you get one of these 2 off your base tickets, well then good, you can use the re-roll banner to just kind of keep going and find some nice ones depending on how much you're doing. But I've already seen clears of over 100k maps and some of the more difficult maps that only use one actual UR or Gundam in their composition. So it is completely possible to play this game without needing to wail the hell out. And more I will be doing clear videos and advanced content as soon as I get there. Currently, this is a brand new account. I've only had it for a couple of days, and I'm still kind of building up my team, getting used to the units and the abilities. Yeah. But sorry, let's go back. Exia and Sazabi, but what are some of the other ones? Well, the Freedom I absolutely recommend because it has map attack, and map attacks are just really, really good. And the Freedom, by virtue alone of having that map attack, will make things really easy. Now, map attacks do need to be used without moving, so that is a big consideration as opposed to something like the Aerial. The Aerial is really interesting because it just has a defense down, a really good defense down on one of its more powerful attacks. Its pilot, Silhouette of Mercury, can also have a little bit of extra bonuses for removing energy costs, so that can make it just a little efficient. But those are the 2 that I also consider to be up in the upper echelon of recommendations from my recommendation. However, I have played around a little bit with 2 other mobile suits I want to talk about specifically. The Barbados 6th Form, as well as the École du Ciel Gundam, which I'm not too familiar with it, so I'll be referring to it essentially as that. The Barbados is more of a defensive unit that's capable of protecting other units. It's actually pretty valuable, and I can see it being really good, so I don't underestimate it as a lot of the tier lists out there, because defensive units can be really good for protecting your offensive units, since you have 3 types. The offensive, the support units, and the defensive units. All 3 are valuable in their own right. So just partially because my account is lucky, I've had the honor of actually using this unit, and it has saved a couple of my units from dying multiple turns, which does affect your actual end score. So yeah, it is valuable. Talking about this one's pretty interesting. I don't think it particularly excels in too many amazing ways, at least not yet. But I actually am enjoying it and having it on the team and testing it out and using it because it is a support unit and it can be pretty nice for getting rid of some difficult, sticky enemies. But yeah, all of this is, of course, pretty recommendable. Like, if you can get a couple of the SSRs on your reroll as well with the UR of your choice, then that's just great. Taking a look here, since not too many people are talking about SSR units, looking at the ones in the A category, such as the Sword Calamity, the Rachiel, which I will just show it very quickly, that one, the 1.5 Gundam, the Advanced GNX, all of these mobile suits are really, really good ones to get on your account. And if you're a free-to-player, building the SSRs and development units will be very, very valuable indeed, since, like, for example, you can get an Exia pretty easy when you're starting an account, or a Sazabi, but starring up units will increase their offensive, defensive, and other capabilities by about 20% per each star. So since you can get potentially some of these lower tier units, getting multiple copies of them and just starring them up, those can absolutely destroy enemies really quickly. Take for an account the best proof in game that anybody has access to, which is the bonus unit we got from starting the game, the new one from GQuacks, the Psychomu Gundam, which if you star that thing up, yes, it doesn't have the best range on attacks, which is probably why most people are ranking it too terribly high, but it can be an absolute murderer of machines very early on. Star that thing up and level it up properly, it can get you through a lot of maps, a lot of enemies very quickly and very effectively. And that's really, really telling of how good low tier units will be, at least for the time being. Yes, you can whale out. Yes, I suppose you could spend a fortune and max star the Exia, but it doesn't matter since there are so many mobile suits coming in the future. We already know Seed Destiny is on the horizon, so the Destiny Gundam, Strike Freedom, the Infinite Justice, all of these machines could be new URs that will absolutely be insane to get your hands on. So save your gems, don't spend all of them in one place, and realize that you don't need an account with 4 URs or 3 URs. You just need some good SSRs and a couple of really good URs to have a really good start and enjoy the game. So yes, thank you so much for watching this video. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Insatiable.